In this special reInvent edition of All in the Field, AWS and Agriculture Live, we're streaming to you across AWS on Air.
And it is our season finale, Karen.
Yeah, we're wrapping up 2020 with Grōv Technologies, who's going to be talking about growing wheatgrass at scale for dairy cattle.
Yeah, there's a lot of insight sharing ahead on this special edition AWS on Air of All in the Field.
AWS Agriculture Live.
Hello, everyone. I'm Matt Wolf, Solutions Architect with AWS out of Chicago. I work with agricultural companies here in the Midwest. This is our season finale. Welcome to the season finale, Karen.
Thank you. I'm Dr. Karen Hildebrand, and I am our worldwide tech leader for the agriculture industry, which means I get to work with all the cool agriculture customers worldwide. I'm a fourth generation farmer, have spent all of my career in AI ML, and so I'm really excited to be able to share what's happening in agriculture today. And because it's a reInvent edition, we decided to do our unofficial countdown of what we are really excited to see launch. So let's stop over in our field notes.
Awesome. All right, so Karen, I know we both get really excited, for this episode, season finale, right? And it's been a lot of fun working with you, getting to know all the incredible use cases from all of our customers this season. But to kick off our season finale, let's go ahead and do something a little bit different than we've done before. And who doesn't love a good countdown going into New Year?
I know, right? I love a countdown. And to be perfectly clear, this is not AWS's opinion. This is Matt and I's unofficial countdown for All in the Field.
It's a great caveat. It is definitely an unofficial opinion, but I feel like we should probably also have like a small font scrolling with all kinds of disclaimers and legalese. But let's go ahead and get the drum roll, please. Oh, here he is. Here's the fine print. Good.
Oh, you do have fine print. I love it. All right, so I'm starting with number 5, and I am making this choice because I love data science, and I think I've been very clear about my AI ML background across all of the episodes we've had this year. So this launch caught my eye. It is Amazon SageMaker Feature Store. Great way to accelerate your data scientists, make sure that all the features that they've created, whether that be weather or growing degree days, are all calculated the same way, speed up your way to ingest them into your models, and speed up your time to building your model itself.
Yeah, it's great. All right, coming in at number 4, and this one's a special shout out to Rachel, who I know isn't here today, but this is IoT Greengrass 2.0. So lots of new capabilities built into the platform, lots of customization. I haven't gotten myself all the way through with a workshop that I was looking at today yet on it, but super excited to see what new capabilities there are.
All right, number 3, I also chose for Rachel. So my previous co-host, who is now out on maternity leave, this is a shout out to you. AWS IoT Core for LoRaWAN. We know that agriculture customers have connectivity challenges, and we see LoRa being a protocol that's really useful in agriculture. So to see this new service come out is really critical. So excited to get my hands on that one.
All right, so I've got one more in my list here that I'm going to do a shout out for, and this is AWS Cloud Shell, and this is really super geeky, Karen. Now, it's not a super, you can't build a lot of things with this service, it doesn't solve too many customer problems, but it is a super simple way to get in and execute command line interactions with AWS and to check things out, right? So, it's running with your credentials. I was on immediately when this thing was announced, getting in there and playing with it.
It is totally okay to embrace your nerd. That is totally fine.
All right.
So number 1 was a specific service. It still is a specific service, but then a new one got announced today that I also really like. So I'm taking 1A and 1B because you already have fine print, so it's okay, right? So 1A, my original one, was AWS Panorama. Really excited about the capabilities on the edge. This one is hands down going to be awesome in agriculture. But 1B is also going to be really, really helpful, and it is Amazon Location Services. So excited to see both of those launch. Again, those are our unofficial disclaimer, 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 our opinion only.
Exactly. Yeah, it's awesome to see all the services that have launched and what impact they're going to have this coming year on agriculture. I can't wait to see what some of our customers and builders out there do, in time for season 2 as we go live here in April.
Absolutely. And before we bring on our guests, just a reminder, if you have questions for us while we're on AWS On Air, feel free to tweet us at AWS On Air, and our amazing moderators, Nathan Pugh and Ronnie Eichler, will be there to respond, and they'll be bringing forward those comments, questions to Matt and I and our guests from Grōv Technologies later in the show.
All right. Well, with that, let's go ahead and bring our guests onto the show.
All right. So this is our second episode of today. We're covering all the ag today, really. We're spanning from equipment manufacturers and scale commodity production, all the way to indoor controlled environment agriculture for animal feed production.
Yeah, and isn't it crazy that we're not even kind of scratching the surface yet? With so many different agriculture communities and their customers and use cases. Everything from viticulture, aquaculture, permanent crops, food processors. It's pretty amazing, like all these different ways that technology can really empower farmers and growers.
Absolutely. So our guests today that joined are from Grōv Technologies, which is a division of NuSkin, and their Olympus tower was recently featured in Fast Company. And so joining us today is Steve Lindsley, who's president of Grōv Technologies, and Vince Perfetti, who is the chief digital officer of NuSkin. So Vince and Steve, welcome to All in the Field. And Steve, let's start with you. Why don't you introduce yourself, and then we'll get into what Grov's doing.
Okay. Hey, guys. Karen, Matt, thanks so much for having us on. And a special shout out to AWS ProServe for this opportunity. It's a lot of fun to be with you guys tonight, and it's the finale, so we're really stoked for that. I'm coming to you live from Vineyard, Utah, which is about 40 miles south of Salt Lake City at the base of, I guess they call it the Silicon Slopes. So it's sort of a fun location for sure. I mean, I'm 40 minutes away from Sundance Ski Resort or Snowbird or pick your resort. And I don't know that we're going to get as much snow as Vince is getting tonight with the nor'easter, but Snowbird's supposed to get about a foot of new fallen of the best snow on earth. So hopefully we get our fair share here. Just quickly about me. So born and raised here in Utah, just love the mountains, love to ski. Love everything that Utah has to offer, and the high-tech nature of the Utah County here has been really phenomenal. I spent most of my career in broadcast and cable TV and telecom, and bit of a student on disruption. I would say I'm kind of a Clayton Christensen disciple, if you will, with disruptive technologies. I was chairman and CEO of a company that was a competitor to cable. If you're familiar with Sling TV, sort of a low-cost cable bundle, we were the first skinny bundle in the United States. So we saw an opportunity to disrupt the U.S. cable complex, if you will. And we certainly see a lot of opportunities with agriculture. And thanks so much for having us on tonight.
Absolutely. So Vince, would you mind introducing yourself and sharing a little bit about your background?
Sure. Thank you so much for having us tonight. I really appreciate the opportunity to share the great things we're doing at Grōv and at NuSkin. I'm Chief Digital Officer at NuSkin Enterprises. I've been with NuSkin for just coming up on 2 years. Interestingly enough, I'm a former alum of AWS ProServe, having worked in the global advisory team. So work with a lot of different verticals, a lot of different markets. Before that, I was with GE and worked with GE Digital in supporting their 11 tier 1 businesses and their migration to cloud and cloud services. So really understand the benefits of cloud and the applicability to different verticals and business units. So really excited to talk about the work that Steve's doing, albeit in Provo. I'm in New York right now, so hopefully we don't lose me during this massive nor'easter. But I miss you, Steve. I wish I was in Provo with you there at Vineyard at the Grōv location. But excited to share our accomplishments. So thanks for having us.
All right, awesome. Welcome to you both. Tonight, we've got kind of quick 30-minute episode. So let's talk a little bit more about some of the problems that Grōv Technologies is solving for.
Yeah. Thanks again for joining us. Let's talk a little bit about the culture of innovation at NuSkin that has led to the acquisition of Grōv Technologies, and then how a company best known as a skincare company really innovated in control environment agriculture. Obviously both require a lot of innovation and knowledge in lighting and chemistry, but I'm sure there's more to it. So Steve, do you want to explain that a little for our audience tonight?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a great question. I mean, NuSkin initially invested in the technology because, they have an amazing 35-year track record of innovation, of science and technology, and they saw this emerging LED and the grow light capability to really help them in their process of looking for pure, sustainable ingredients that they could grow and then include in their products that they source literally around the world. And so the early beginnings were, just products for NuSkin. And then, as it turns out, the visionary CEO of NuSkin, a man by the name of Rich Wood, he also was raised on a dairy farm in Weiser, Idaho. And so he saw some of the product and the crops that were being grown for NuSkin, and he said, hey, wait a minute, you're cutting the top off of this product. What are you doing with the rest of it? And they said, well, we're just throwing it away. And he said, don't throw it away. I know animals would love this. And so this whole end-to-end platform, this whole solution was really just born out of, Rich's background and his vision. And I would say also, in my diligence as I joined the company, I knew about NuSkin as a worldwide powerhouse in the direct selling industry, but I had no idea the impact they were having around the world for good. And NuSkin has a Nourish the Children Foundation, and the number is really staggering, but they fed over 700 million meals now to underprivileged children, especially in Africa. Yeah, it's really amazing. And so this idea of pure, clean, no pesticides, no herbicides, feeding the world, nourishing the world. It's really in NuSkin's DNA. It's just has made a lot of sense.
All right. Well, based on your background right now, we kind of understand the problem and how you solve some of the technical challenges for creating the Olympus Tower Farm. But we've all been wondering, it's right over your shoulder. What can you tell us about it?
Yeah, so I want to introduce your viewing audience to the Olympus Tower Farm, which is right behind me. This is a prototype here in our visitor center. If you get a chance, anybody that's watching, we'd love to host you. You can come out to the visitor center, hopefully as COVID gets behind us. But you're looking at 875 square feet on the ground. It's about 23 feet tall. This machine is the largest fully robotic, autonomous vertical farm for animal feed found anywhere in the world, we believe. And, we're certainly proud of the accomplishments of the team that's built it, Paul Whitlock and his engineers, and really the full group that have come together, the founders, to build this machine. I think we have a video, so if you want to go ahead and roll tape, we'll go ahead and just kind of explain it to you. I think the video does it. So you're looking at our feed center at Utah's largest farm, the Batemans farm. We have 8 of our Olympus towers out there on location. Each of these towers, as I mentioned, fully robotic. We don't use any soil. The robot lays the seed down in the tray, and then it moves it through the system. We give it a precise watering technique, and we'll talk later about the recipes, I think, later in the broadcast here. But literally, after going through the system, hitting it with precise lights, in 6 to 7 days, you have a crop. It's a fully nutritious, no pesticides, no herbicides, and it grows a crop on about 5% of the water. And so, as we look at the challenges around the world, to be able to save water is so huge. The crop moves on its way out. It's mixed with a regular blend of the total mix ration for the dairy animals, and it's fed to the animals right there, live and fresh. So it's a remarkable facility. We're certainly proud of it, and certainly think that it really plays an amazing role within this sort of broader controlled environment agriculture space.
Yeah, I think that's really great to have the actual visual and walk through and understand kind of what that looks like. Vince, I know as you explained your background and being able to have seen multiple organizations as part of ProServe previously, maybe you could tell us a little bit about, as your role as Chief Digital Officer at NuSkin, what does NuSkin see that's distinct about Grōv and ultimately the end customer here?
Yeah, so part of the innovation that we were working on that brought me to NuSkin was an empathy mapping for our customers. So after starting, Ryan Napierski, the president, instantiated 3 different tenants for the company that followed in line with the 3 tenants that I had created for technology group. The 3 tenets are customer obsession. They're going to sound familiar to AWSers, right, and Amazonians. Customer obsession, cloud first in terms of technology, and mine was security foundationally. So those are all great things that I'm sure most of your viewers are very familiar with. From a company perspective, it's customer obsession, digital first, and a global footprint. So all of the systems that we've created at NuSkin are fully extensible and scalable. And again, NuSkin's a global company. I didn't realize when I joined, maybe very similar to Steve, but really they have a rich history of innovation in nutrition and wellness and beauty. And we'll get into this a little bit with doing the customer empathy mappings. And it was a great application in the ag vertical, really trying to do an empathy mapping on who is the customer. And ironically enough, having worked in ag before, I never thought of putting a cow as your customer and really looking at what is a successful recipe when you think about this. And I think a lot of people rush to judgment and say, I want to grow that plant or whatever it might be, whatever fresh might be, and I want to get it, speed to market. I want it to grow really fast and quantity, right? And then we could dissect the percentages of dry matter and whatnot. But effectively, we took a better, more holistic look at the end customer, being the farmer and the cattle, and tried to derive what's the true value proposition, and then do an empathy mapping. Working backward from that, sort of saying, what are those items that we need to be sensitive to and monitor and censor, besides this bifurcated approach of the system itself and making sure that it's operating efficiently and self-correcting, and then also the end output. And this is where I think, Matt, you're going to get into some reference architecture and illustrate that a little bit more in detail. But what's interesting about this and the extensibility, having built the foundation in NuSkin core, is that this is so much more than just a controlled environment agriculture platform, right? And that's what I love about it. And with your background, Karen, in terms of data sources, the services that come out are just from AWS are just so far superior for us. I mean, it's and your audience knows this. It's just really much more mature. I go back to my days at GE when we were multi-cloud. So we were hybrid, and we were actually working with other cloud providers. And again, this isn't a plug really necessarily for AWS. I think it's just more of a fact. But yeah, we've taken what we've done at NuSkin, made it extensible to the CEA environment, and so much more than that, creating a platform.
Okay, so in a controlled environment agriculture, recipes are kind of the magic formula for growth, right? They make the crop conditions reproducible, but they kind of also vary by crop, I'm assuming. Did Grōv know ahead of time from the beginning that they're going to focus on wheatgrass for kind of the dairy beef feed production? Or how did you guys kind of come to that decision?
Well, yeah, I mean, the initial product for NuSkin is a wheatgrass product. And so, as I was saying, Rich saw what was being grown by the NuSkin scientists and said, hey, we can really do something with this that could be powerful on the farm. And but stepping back, you're right. The recipes are the holy grail, and we call them the Grōv protocols, if you will. But it's the ability to take all of the variable data that is out there and the variabilities that come together to make the recipe special, The exciting thing is you're really on a speed to data platform that can be mind-blowing. Normally in a conventional environment, you get maybe 2 or 3 or 4 cuts of an alfalfa. You really don't know what the weather is like this year versus last year. Your ability to gather the data and have it be reliable is extraordinarily difficult. With this scenario here, you from the seed point to the harvest point is literally 6 days. And so you can have the harvest in the hands of scientists. We have a Grow Research Center here with scientists right on location. You can get the crop into the hands of the animal nutritionists, and you can optimize that data so that you now get into this machine learning loop, this speed to data opportunity that is really powerful. And this is sort of part of what our patented technology allows us to do. Is we have a special lighting recipe that comes from our patented lights that is really cool. Not only can we adjust the overall sort of yield of the machine, but we can also adjust the nutritional aspects. So, for example, our scientists have been able to prove that we can get greater amounts of beta carotene, for example, a vitamin A product that's used by the dairy. We can adjust that with our lights. So, bringing all of the variabilities together, next generation lights and science, it's really a powerful sort of game-changing opportunity.
That's awesome.
And Steve, I'll just have a quick follow-up question because I know that we're kind of short on time here and we want to get through all the rest of the good content. So maybe this is a quick answer. I think there's about 270 million dairy cattle worldwide. So when we're thinking about the ration and what your scientists have been able to determine here, what percentage of the ration are you testing right now that is wheatgrass? And again, I'll try not to ask too detailed of a question just for time.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I mean, the wheatgrass for us is a bit of a superfood or a super feed for these animals. And so we've really targeted about 15% of the ration. And how much of the ration you'll use with our product is really determined on what part of the world, the region that you're in, the desired outcomes that you have, and really the availability of feed that's out there. In our tests, we've used about 12.5% of the ration in dairy animals and up to 35% on average for the beef animal. And the results have been fantastic. The milk outcome, the health of the animals. On the meat side, the average daily gain have been really spectacular.
Yeah, thanks. That's good to know, kind of that variation between dairy and beef. So appreciate your diving in on that one. Vince, I know you've been working with the ProServe team as part of this project. And when you're building controlled environment agriculture, there is the creation of the recipe itself, but then there's also the control plane of how do you maintain that recipe? How do you ensure you have quality and consistency? Could you tell us a little bit about that process of working with ProServe and which of those two problems was most challenging to solve for?
Yeah, they both are very challenging to solve for. And being in this space, you guys know this very well. I think it's a level of maturity. So as we started to ruggedize the control plane and the operation of the system itself, the pods and the feedback mechanisms, to help them rectify and validate and rectify the nuances of operating the pod. We then start getting into, and once you start getting more consistency there, which is really the initial challenge, and that's more of an engineering feat, if you will. And we have amazing engineers at Grōv that have been at this from the very nascent stages. I mean, effectively, since I've been there, they've been able to be very agile and rebuild effectively a lot of the approaches. And that's another great thing that I appreciated about Grōv is really their innovative startup mentality of just coming together and collaborating with heavy engineering knowledge. So they had already created a beachfront of what works, what doesn't work. we were modifying it for the end recipe of what provides the most value. And this is where the empathy mapping was really crucial. So I think it was a point in time, Karen, that where initially it was the control plane and ruggedizing that, I'll call it ruggedizing. And then it was transitioning to how do we optimize for the best value for the customer, and what is that value? And every time we'd introduce a new data point, it would mean that we had to rethink the entire recipe. And I think that's another huge advantage of what we have. Steve's not getting into it all that much, but that's sort of the secret sauce of it's not just the pH or the water, right, or the nutrients or the height or the ruggedization of the pod itself. It's now we throw lighting into it. Now we throw a completely controlled environment into it. Now we throw AI and ML into it, and we start adding additional data points. So, and the feedback loop with the scientists who are actually looking and aggregating even more rich data after, we look at the end customer being the cow. So it's exciting stuff.
Absolutely. And since we are here at reInvent, we have to take a look at a reference architecture. It's part of what we always like to do is take a little bit of that technical peek. And so, Matt, would you mind walking us through this? I believe this is part of the upcoming blog we'll be publishing. So go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Ashu Joshi from our ProServe team is actually working on, and I think the blog's going to be coming out just in a matter of days if you want to find it. Unfortunately, we're super short on time right now, Karen. So as much as I want to dive into this, the basics of it is, we have IoT greengrass on the edge. We're taking in all of this IoT data and then selectively doing some action locally at the edge. And then if you look at the next slide here, it shows the kind of different components of in the cloud and what we're doing once we take the data out of IoT greengrass into IoT core, and then feeding several of the different subsystems, including the API that the application itself uses. Also, all kinds of cool metrics coming out of QuickSight, via Athena. So I think we've got to jump from there. Really quickly here, wanted to ask Steve, jumping forward a little bit here, the Bateman dairy farm has kind of really been long known as an early adopter on a lot of these technologies for sustainability and operations. And it sounds like, kind of a great development partner for you guys at Grōv. And we talk a lot at Amazon that there's no compression algorithm for experience, right? And really how that applies to the experience of running technologies like this at scale. How will Grōv be looking to scale out this solution? Is it more locations, more recipes? What are you guys looking at?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of both. And I must say, I do have to put a plug in for the Batemans. They are innovative guys. They're smart. And, they really care about the future of the industry and the next generation of the industry. And so their willingness to invent alongside with us is pretty amazing. In fact, one of the things that they're involved in right now is they're building an indoor barn facility where they'll have robotic milking capability that will be right next door to our feed center. So you'll have the feed center be able to provide the modular feed opportunity into the robotic milking, and you'll have immediate data coming to you on that milk almost in real time, and then we can inform that back. So it's really a combination of really focusing on, all right, how do we best position the product? What's the best way to position the right amount of towers with the right amount of animals? And how do we scale it as quickly as we can through all of the plant installations around the world?
Wow.
So we always ask our guests, what's the thing that you learned in this process that you would do differently in hindsight, or that you would pay it forward to other technologists who are listening along tonight? Do you have any words of advice for those who are watching?
Do you want me to take that one first?
Go ahead. You can start, Steve.
Well, no, I was going to say, I was going to say, this business at the end of the day is really about first mover. It's really about speed to market. And you have to really understand what your core competencies are and evaluate, we've got, I would say, some of the best engineers on the planet out there, but looking at AWS and what they were able to bring to the table for us really sped up our delivery of the product. We're able to talk to you today about the amazing intelligence that's on this machine. At the end of the day, the machine is a mechanism to get to the data, and we're able to have this conversation because we made the decision to say, you know what, we're going to combine up with AWS, and we're going to speed up our delivery into the marketplace. So I would just say, hey, know your core competencies and know how you can speed your pathway to success.
And I think because we're a little short on time, we'll go straight into our viewer questions. I think we have a few that have popped in. And
Yeah.
let's see. Matt, you want to take that?
I've got one here. Yeah, sure. One of the questions we only have time for one question, Karen. Sorry. So this one I think is probably for Steve. How many years did it take to develop Olympus?
Well, the early stage of the development really started with the lighting technology, and the lighting technology has been in development at least 5 years or more. When NuSkin invested in the product, it had been around at least for a year or two. And so, but in terms of getting the tower built, it was probably a good 2 years before we felt like we really had a commercial grade machine.
Awesome.
Well,
All right.
that brings us to the end of our final episode of 2020. Thanks, Steve and Vince, for joining us today to show us what Grōv Technologies is innovating on in controlled environment agriculture for livestock.
A pleasure.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
All right, Karen, I can't believe we're wrapping up our final All in the Field for 2020. It's been an awful lot of fun showcasing what we can build for agriculture, using AWS services, hearing about architectures, hearing advice directly from some of our customers. To hear from industry powerhouses like Deere, startups like FarmDog and Grōv today, across 2 different episodes in one day. It's been hectic, but an awful lot of fun.
Absolutely, it has been hectic, but agriculture is really a truly phenomenal and impactful industry. We really want to say thank you to the essential workers in the agriculture industry who have been so critical this year. And from the bottom of all of our hearts, thank you again for making sure we have food on our tables.
Yeah, I think as a team, we're all pretty proud of what agriculture has done this year. I know personally, as a technologist, this is definitely one of the most rewarding industries to be in. So.
Yeah, and thanks again, everybody, for joining us for our final episode on AWS On Air. We know that there will be a lot of additional reInvent content, but look for us again in 2021, and there'll be announcements out in January of the start of the new season.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll see everyone again here in 2021 for our next season of AWS All in the Field Agriculture Live.